It's springtime in Montana, and we're going outdoors to follow the seasons as it unfolds, connect with nature, and create. You may want to start a journal for all your ideas, drawings, poems, songs, and stories. Now let's take a walk, open our ears, our eyes, and our heart, and create some art.
As we explore, we often hear animals and birds before we see them, so remember to be as quiet and respectful as possible so we don't scare them away. While you're at home, it is important to be calm, kind, helpful, and thankful for your family, teachers, workers, and healthcare providers that are doing their best for all of us, all over the world. Today we will look for signs of spring and learn about the structure of trees and how to draw them. We may find some useful native plants too. Each tree species has a different structure. Here you see pine and aspen. It is still cold this spring and there are no leaves on the trees yet, as you can see here. This makes it easier to see their structure. Structure means the parts of a whole. Most trees are wider at the base and get thinner towards the top. Let's take a look at the ponderosa pine. Ponderosa means red pine in Spanish. It is Montana's state tree. It is an evergreen and keeps its pine needles all winter. This is a young ponderosa pine. Notice how the branches grow out of the vertical trunk, almost horizontal. In the winter, the Bitterroot Salish Indians often harvested the inner cambium bark for food for their horses and often themselves. Notice how most evergreens are cone shape. Take the time to touch the trunk of trees to feel their texture. Texture is what something feels like to the touch. Pay attention how light falls on the trunks and creates shadows. Pine trees can be identified by their needles. Ponderosa needles are long and grow in groups of 3. Fir needles are short. The juniper tree is a round cone shape. Its berries are used for coughs and other ailments by the Salish Indians of Montana. Always check with an adult before eating wild food. Rose hips are a good source of vitamin C, and cattail shoots may be eaten in the spring. And the red osier dogwood is often used to make baskets, as are the branches of the willow. Native Americans have long used the inner bark of the willow for fever, as it contains the same chemical as modern-day aspirin. Even though it is cold, I am noticing the first signs of spring, like this pussy willow flowering, a lilac bud, and buttercups. In the Salish calendar, April is called the buttercup month. Today we will draw an aspen tree. Notice all the Y and V shapes of these young saplings. Aspen trunks and branches are white with dark splotches. Notice how tree trunks are a cylinder shape and how the light creates a vertical shadow on the right side because the light source is on the left. Notice on this aspen the V shape where a branch has grown out of the trunk. These are just a few of the trees and plants I found, but you can discover what is growing wherever you live. Now that we've explored, let's go to our art studio and draw a tree. You may also want to draw while you're on your walk. Sit quietly in front of your favorite tree, observe closely its shape, texture, and shadows, and draw it. If you're real quiet, a bird might visit you and you can draw that too. But you'll have to be quick. So now we are back in the studio, ready to draw our tree. You'll need a paper, pencil, eraser, or you could use a pen. If you're going on your walk, you might want to take a journal with you. This is my journal, and I keep all my drawings, my poems, my songs, my stories, all my ideas in it. If you have one, you can take that with you. You could also make your own journal. Take some pieces of paper, fold them in half, and staple the sides. Make sure if you, when you're journaling, to write the date, maybe a little something about your day, where you're going and where you are, your drawing, what you saw, and then if you can, try to identify what you saw. So this is my aspen tree, and I saw a chickadee. When I was on my walk, I collected a branch so that I could study the structure a little better. You can see here how if this was a tree, the trunk is wider and gets narrower at the top. You can also see how the branches get skinnier and end in the top. Trees are tall, so we're going to put our paper vertically, the tall way. Horizontal would make a shorter tree. Horizontal is the wide way. So put your paper vertical. We're going to draw our aspen tree right in the coming up in the middle of our paper. That's close to us. We'll start with the trunk down low, and we're going to do a vertical line about where our main trunk goes. And you're going to do a parallel line next to it. It won't be doesn't have to be a perfect parallel line, because remember, we want to get everything a little thinner as it grows up. There's our trunk. Now you could keep going up with the trunk after your first branches, or have this be your Y here. I'm going to show you here why we don't want to cut our trunk off right there. Or if you wanted to keep your trunk going, you'd open that into the Y, and then you're going to place a V, but you'd stop when you're even with the trunk. So the V won't be perfectly, and then your trunk, peekaboo, would keep going up there. So that's if you wanted to keep going up with your trunk. What you don't want to do is cut your trunk off. See how that looks? Like somebody took a chainsaw to it. Sometimes this is how people draw trees. I call them lollipop trees. We can't see any branches, and all of a sudden the trunk becomes leaves. So after you've gone up with your trunk, pretend this is the stem of the letter Y. I'm going to open it up and make the top part of the Y. It doesn't have to be even, because we know trees aren't all perfectly even. And inside of that, we're going to put a big V. It's going to parallel this line, but it might go from a thin space to a wider space. And maybe this branch here will be bigger, but I'm going to come in just a little bit. You don't want to close it. And there's your Y. We're going to now multiply and make another Y. Remember that arms of the Y don't have to be even. Over here and make another Y. Inside each we'll put a V, and we're going to get thinner and thinner every time. Be careful that your V never touches that other line that you're paralleling. Now we have 1, 2, 3 Y's. See how each one is smaller than the last one. You're going to open up each branch. You can make long ones if you want. Into your Y. We have new Y's. Maybe this one will do that. And stick your V in here. Start thin, get wider. And do that to all your branches. As you climb up, and they get narrower, you could end it in a nice point. Never want to just cut a branch off like that just because you're getting tired of doing it. You have to follow it all the way up to the top. You could even go off the page with it. So keep climbing till you get up there, and you might run into a problem where one branch will be in the way of another branch. You don't want to just cut it off there. We're going to underlap, go under it with that peekaboo line. Stop and go, because these branches are in front of that one. Show you here, I'll put my Y, my V. The last thing you can do with this structure is add some twigs. If you push really hard and go dark and then light, we'll make a real skinny branch at the end of it. Put one twig coming off another, like that, and one off of that, until it just kind of disappears up into the air. Just make sure all your branches end in a point. Now that we've drawn the structure of our tree, we want to add texture. Texture is what something feels like. Remember the bark of the aspen had those dark splotches? Gonna make them uneven. Don't put them all in a row because that wouldn't look real right. This tree is growing out of the ground and it's a cylinder, so where it touches the ground, you don't want to go straight across, you want to make a curve which will make it look round. Not all trees end this way, some of them have roots and that, but the aspen tree comes right out of the ground. So now we're going to add some shading to show that this is a shape, cylinder shape. So then let's pretend the sunlight's coming from the right side. Everything on the left side will be dark. Put your pencil inside your hand, and with your finger, that's the gas pedal. You can go dark or lift up on it for light. This part of the tree furthest away from the light will be the blackest. And always shade in the direction when you're doing trees that the tree grows. And then we're going to go a little lighter on that side. This is called adding value. Values are your darks and lights. Everything from black, I push really hard, I get black, to dark gray, to medium gray, to super, super light. As you move towards where the sunlight is, you want to get really light. And this will make our tree have that cylinder shape. And you want to kind of pretend, where would the sun not get to? And underneath the branches too. That bottom part where the light doesn't get to. Maybe there's a curve like right here. There might be a little more shadow. Now our tree looks a little more realistic, three-dimensional. Now you can blend that. I use my little finger. You could use a tissue, but that gets a little messy and jumps out of the tree. And always when you're blending, move your finger, or you can have a blending stick, in the direction that you did the shading. Now this tree looks like it's floating, so let's put some shadow on the ground that it is. And your hand is going to move the direction the ground is. So if it's flat, you're going to go sideways. So the darkest part of the ground here is going to be right next to that tree. And I move right up, black, black, black. And as I go away from the tree, I'm going to go lighter and lighter by lifting up on my pencil. Take my finger and I can blend that, kind of soften the edges a little bit. There we have our aspen tree. Now you try it. We will return when the leaves are out, and we can put the leaves on there and add some color. See you then. Thanks for joining me today. Keep discovering and creating.